Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. And today's guest is Sherrie Deans. She is the executive director of the NBA Players Association Foundation. Sherrie, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Devin. Thanks for having me.
We're thrilled to have you, and you're doing some fun and exciting things. And I'm really excited to be able to talk to you about NBA players as part-time social entrepreneurs. I think this is an exciting topic because so many of them devote off-season time and even part-time during the season to philanthropic activities. But it's exciting to learn about the sorts of things they're doing. Can you give us an example or two?
Sure. So I'd love to start by just saying that the National Basketball Players Association Foundation was set up to help engage and support the efforts of players in their philanthropy. And so we're really honored to do that. And we do some of that through advising and counseling, and other parts of it through co-funding with them. And so we have the opportunity to get a real deep understanding of what they're doing through our grant process. But I can give you wonderful examples of guys who are doing great work. You know, I think about Isaiah Thomas, who plays for the Boston Celtics, who, you know, if you know Isaiah, and this is the current Isaiah, not the Detroit Pistons Isaiah, but he is a tiny guy, and he is not supposed to be in the league by all accounts. And he just renovated the gym in his Boys and Girls Club. And the entire theme of the gym is pick me last. Pick me last again. And the curriculum that goes into the work that's happening in that gym is all about overcoming obstacles, not being held back by sort of the natural abilities that are given to you, but really empowering kids to believe that they can do anything. And so when you have this, 5'6" or 5'7" individual standing in front of kids and looking them eye to eye and saying, I wasn't supposed to make it, and I believe that you can make it, that kind of stuff matters. When you make investments in infrastructure, we don't talk a lot about infrastructure anymore. We have very lofty goals about social entrepreneurism that all are about systems change and policy. But if you don't have a place to actually go, the reality is it's difficult to provide services.
Yeah,
so,
just at this basic level, right, for the kids we're talking about, if there's no place to play basketball, they're never going to end up having the opportunity to do well in college or something. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for Isaiah, he knows that basketball is the carrot. I mean, most of these guys do. When you come in to play basketball, then you can get all the other services that these institutions can provide. And so whether that's computer labs or it's homework help or it's nutritional services, or
it's just an alternative to not being somewhere else where maybe they shouldn't be, right?
Basic safety. So I think about someone like Isaiah, who's really, really relatively young, but the hundreds of kids that will pour through that center because of him, I think it's life-changing. You look at Pau and Mark Gasol, who have focused their work on nutrition and healthy eating, and have sort of taken up the responsibility of getting healthy foods into the hands of families that live in food deserts. That matters. Or JaVale Green, who's a native of Flint, Michigan, who as often as he can gets back to Flint to talk about the importance of water consumption, of having healthy water and sustainable sources, and also the real impacts of the lead poisoning that the 8,000 children of Flint are trying to overcome. They're really, really great guys, and it's a pleasure to work with them.
I just got back not long ago from Africa, and I understand Dikembe Mutombo's got a project there in the DRC.
Right. Dikembe is also, in addition to supporting current players, we also do have funding for retired players. And Dikembe is a grantee, and he has a women's clinic in the DRC that is doing transformational work. I don't think anyone that knows Dikembe thinks that he's anything less than a giant of a figure, but his impact off the court has been unbelievably amazing, and he's also set the groundwork for the players that are coming behind him. Luol Deng is doing great work. Gorgie Deng also is starting a clinic in his country. Bismack Biyombo, Serge Ibaka. These are guys that have not forgotten about where they come from and are really trying to address the deepest needs affecting their country around health, nutrition, access to care. And they also play a little basketball when they go down. For a lot of them too, they never want to forget that the thing that gave them the opportunity, and feel a need to make the path easier for the guys that came after them. And so you'll see a lot of guys doing that kind of work in addition to the other things they focus on.
Oh, that's great. Hey, not every social entrepreneur, not every business, not every foundation, not every charity succeeds.
Yeah.
Clearly, when we're talking about young people full of sort of unbridled enthusiasm, the risk of mistake must be high. How do you work with the players to be successful in their philanthropic efforts?
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that when players become professional athletes, there's some kind of blueprint for how to do this, and you just immediately become Muhammad Ali, and that's just not true. The rate of failure for players who are doing philanthropy is probably not any different than any other population. It is really, really hard to make a difference in a problem that is generations long. It is really hard to run an organization, whether for-profit or nonprofit. And there are a lot of reasons for that. There is a lack of experience, a lack of resources. Sometimes the problems are just very difficult. Sometimes it's hubris. There are all kinds of reasons why things don't work. I don't think our players are unique with that experience, but I do think the spotlight is on them. The expectation is there. I think they feel that pressure sometimes. And they have to perform under that pressure. And what we try to tell them is that this is lifetime work. This can be lifetime work for you. You don't have to fix it tomorrow. You don't have to feel pressured to fix it tomorrow. Well, let's find a way to do it sustainably, and really think about impact. And it's hard to fight against all of the other forces, but I think for the majority of our guys, they found a way, and we can recover from mistakes that have been made.
Sure. These are great lessons for all social entrepreneurs. Now, you've also been running a program for the last couple of years that I think you call Everyday Dads. Tell us about that program.
Yeah, so Everyday Dad is a project that we had that was really about telling a different story about who our players were, and hoping to connect with fans that they may have that see them only as celebrity athletes. It started right about the time when there was My Brother's Keeper was sort of at its height, and one of the things that effort was trying to address was narratives about men of color, and there is a prevailing narrative that there's a disconnection between these men and their families, and we really thought that we could help to put different narratives and different images out into the world that would inform a new narrative not just for our players, but a different way for people to connect and find themselves or see themselves in people that they admired. And so we started Everyday Dad. The other thing is that a part of the foundation's work is legacy and legacy preservation. And you can't really preserve legacy if you have inaccurate stories out there. So for many of the players, the most valuable thing in their lives is their families. And it's the thing that people ask them about rarely, unless there's scandal and drama. But for the most part, their relationship with their kids are very, very normal, and they fight for that normalcy. And I think the lessons that they have to teach us about how they stay connected and how they work with, within a really non-traditional lifestyle could be really helpful for other people. So, Everyday Dad just sort of spilled out naturally, and the result was players were so happy to share these stories. They were so happy to be asked a different story, and their fans responded.
Oh, fantastic. Now, just a couple of personal questions for you, Sherrie. First, you work with amazing people, but that makes you a role model, not only to a lot of people outside the league, but to all these remarkable people in the league. So you are a giant, but who do you look up to for inspiration as a role model?
So it's going to sound trite, but, my father's an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur. When I was a sophomore in college, my dad decided that he was going to start a church, which no one does. I think he was maybe 55 or 56 at the time. And he left his job and became a full-time minister. And I've watched, it's, almost 25 years now, I've watched that church grow from a tiny little gathering in a banquet hall of a local hotel, to now they own a full city block in South Miami. And the church has a full-time school. It has a recording studio, a bookstore. It has businesses that feed into the church. It has provides services to homeless families, to the elderly, prison ministry. I mean, I've watched that grow. And so, I know I've seen what it looks like to connect with people and provide people with what they need, and serve communities in very, very different ways. And so it's easy to sort of follow in his footsteps.
Well, that's fantastic. So he's been a great role model, and that probably has influenced your decision to do what you do. But tell us a little bit more about why you've personally chosen a career in philanthropy.
So this was an accident. I would love to tell you that this is what I planned to do, but I was a banker before I did this. I spent the first part of my career in banking, and that after the financial crisis, that sort of reset my life, and I went into fundraising. I had connections and had done sales. And my first experience in philanthropy was complicated. I was sort of met with talking to people and raising money from people that I wasn't always sure had the best interests of our beneficiaries at heart, and that was a very difficult experience for me. I think it's funny to have a sort of ethical crisis. A banker having an ethical crisis in a nonprofit is strange, but that happened. And I said, I think if my next job, if I were to pick, it would be helping wealthy people make the right decisions. Like, how do you navigate this philanthropic world? How do you know what's going on when you leave the board meeting? And I think it's almost impossible. And that's what I said. That led me to a job at the Admiral Center. And the Admiral Center just happened to be a consultancy that helped wealthy individuals define a philanthropic strategy. But all the wealthy individuals were celebrities and athletes. And that's sort of where my passion for this started. And that led to this. I worked with players like Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade, and when the union sort of recreated itself about 3 years ago, this opportunity became available, and I jumped on it.
Oh, fantastic! Well, we're glad you did. Now, Sherrie, what is your superpower?
So I'm a connector. That's what I do. I don't love being in the spotlight, but I love figuring out how to bring people together that should be together. I love bringing ideas to people that they hadn't thought about before, and that's what my job is about. My job is about connecting the players that I work with to the causes that matter most to them, and making sure that those connections are strong and lasting. So, it just so happens that I found the job that works for me. There isn't another job like it. I dare someone to say, but I think I have a very, very unique job, and I enjoy it greatly.
No, that's terrific. Well, Sherrie, we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Before you go, please tell us how people can connect with you and learn more about the National Basketball Players Association Foundation.
Sure. So if you want to learn more about the NBPA Foundation, you can go to nbpafoundation.com. And from there, we have highlights of all of our players. We also, you can directly link to our Everyday Dad page, which shows all of the movies that we've collected, both of players and fans, and gives you the opportunity to add your story. So we'd love to, stay connected to people and have you see the great work that's happening, and just visit us online.
Fantastic. Well, Sherrie, thank you very much for being with us today. We wish you every success in advancing the philanthropic efforts of the great people in the NBA.
Thank you.
All righty. Let's do some good.